Hello, hello, hello. Hopefully the sound is good. Just cleaning my glasses a bit. Realize I got pretty smudged up today. It looks like there's 4 people here already. That's pretty awesome. I mean, this channel's growing slowly, but 3 people now. Oops, I drove someone off. So now that my glasses are clean, I said I would finish popping this painting loose this week. If you can see the extra glare, I did do a gloss coat. Oh, good. Sound is good. I was worried I was going to kick in. And so you can see all the shine, but it does, if you saw the video I posted midweek, you can see how it just makes all those colors richer. So I'm going to probably post I scanned it. Going to post it on social media tomorrow and probably add this to the art shop Friday along with some more Conan stuff. But I said I was going to pop it out. And what I do is this is when I do watercolors, not on like heavy illustration board, but on watercolor paper. I prefer to, if anyone's worked with watercolors, you're supposed to like soak it, let it get like floppy wet, and then tape it or staple it to a board. I like Gator board. This is like 1/2 inch thick, like really hard, almost like wood hard level foam board. And I staple it in, and it holds it flat in the drum. And if I let it really, really sit for like up to a week after it's dried, when I pop it loose, there's next to no. If I've had some pieces that come out with no curving or warping at all, but I've had a few pieces that, like after you let them sit released for a couple of days, they do curl up a little bit. And I think that's just the nature of medium sitting on one side of the paper and not on the other. So yeah, I use a metal palette knife and I just lift all the staples on the sides. And you don't even have to go all the way around, but if it's some smaller piece, and it just comes loose. And you can see all the danger zone of staple bits on the other side. And then just to get them loose, I just pop the palette knife under the staples again, and I let them fall into my hand. So they don't go all over to the floor and I end up stepping on them and swearing. Not that that's ever happened to me. Oh, mia Dios. Oh, no. Speaking Spanish again. I was cursed to speak Spanish by a witch. So we staple that. Yeah, so you can see, even though it's like I did a whole bunch of painting, this got completely soaked. It's flat as can be, ready for framing. For anyone who wants to do that. You know what? Having done this was so much fun. I really want to do another painting soon. I don't have any assignments that are calling for paintings right now. So I might just end up doing it for stream, pretty much the way this Leia was done, just because of Star Wars Day. I had never done Carrie Fisher or Princess Leia before, General Leia. I don't know, it might be smart to do another Star Wars portrait, or just maybe another Lucasfilm character like young Indy. Also, there's part of me that's thinking that I posted on social media. I'm going to be doing some oil paintings this summer, just basically to get more comfortable with the medium. I want to do more painting as I get older, and oils is a lot more patient medium. Acrylics can be tricky. I mean, you can get retarding mediums in acrylics to make them dry slower, but at that point, why aren't you using oils? Because you can use oils in a very non-toxic way using not using solvents and the like, using walnut oil and spike lavender oil for a medium in cleaning your brushes. Yeah, so all the staples are out. So yeah, I'm pretty happy how this turned out. Nice little small portrait. I could see where I'd either want to do just maybe one Indiana Jones painting, but I feel like before I hit the oils, I think I want to do I don't know, at least 3 or 4 more Zorn palette acrylic pieces. I even went and picked up when you guys saw me working the layout, you notice I was using not an actual cadmium red, which is what you really should use in the Zorn palette, and not an actual ivory black. I was using Mars black, and I think it's called Scarlet, which is close. But even though I didn't have plans to do paintings, here I went and picked up some ivory black and some cadmium red light. So I'm ready to go. So now I kind of really want to do more paintings. Oh, here we go. Good evening. Thanks so much, Paul. Lobo painting? A Lobo painting. Yeah, let me finish reading before I start responding. So nice. I have childhood nostalgia for Star Wars. Beyond that, and I'll watch one with my son because he still has real affection for Star Wars. It's nowhere near my favorite science fiction films. I like the actors more than the characters, if that makes sense. Like Blade Runner is more my speed in terms of a really high quality science fiction project. And where did I put the book I was going to talk about today? Pulled it out. I didn't want to do I got a whole bunch of new books. Well, I want to actually, they're new, so I want to go through them a bit before I start talking about them. So I dragged out my copy of the studio. Oh, here it is. Dragged out my copy of the studio because I figured some people may never have seen this book. Now, if you're old as me, you probably have. But this was an art book put out in the 70s. Based on I think it only lasted a couple of years, but for a couple of years, Jeffrey Jones, or Jeffrey Catherine Jones, Michael Kaluta, Barry Windsor Smith, and Bernie Wrightson shared a studio space in New York. Yeah. Oh, and also before I forget, Jim, yeah. So use the staples instead of the traditional glue tape, that water-based tape for stretching watercolors. Or it's even better than some people were using wooden stretchers and then stapling the wet watercolor paper, or using these weird kind of push-in things around the side. Hang on, do a quick sketch of what I've seen this and I was tempted it. So they have a stretcher that you can change the size of slightly. And it's wooden, and it's got a groove along the middle on each side, so it's almost like a canvas stretching board. This on camera, and it's got this groove. And so what you do is you take your watercolor paper, and your watercolor paper would have to be significantly larger than your stretcher, and then you bend it when it's fully soaked. And then you take a rubber tubing, and you would push rubber tubing through the paper to hold it in place, to get it stretched as tight as a drum. And so when it dries, that means this area is completely flat, and you just cut off all the excess paper. I like this. It's so I have 2 of these size. This is. I initially bought one big board and I cut it in half. So this is 12 inches by 16 inches. And I think the full size was, can't remember what side I cut. I think it was 2 feet by 16 inches. So you could actually do fairly large watercolor pieces or acrylic pieces on this. You can see I've used it. I had this before I did the food bank project. So all the paintings for the food bank project project were done like this. I have 2 boards cut down like this, and I have 1 full-size board, even though I really haven't. Oh no, I did the cover for Ed Brisson's book on the bigger board. My God, I'm getting old memories. Yeah, so I find that works. Soak the paper for the good 20 minutes or so. Put it wet on the board. Staple it on like top, bottom, side, and then you kind of rotate around everything so it's like evenly tight, and it dries stretched and flat. It's great. I don't have to re-wet the back and then put 50 pounds of books on it to get flat artwork anymore. It's my favorite thing, and it's I got mine. I believe I got a 2-pack off of Amazon at a good price because it was on sale. But the first one I got, so I'm keeping a spare in a storage room just in case anything happens to one of these. The first one I got from Above Ground Art Supplies here in Toronto. I think it's called Graphics with an X instead of a CS. And it's essentially it's Gator board. If you go to a decent construction place, they'll sell you like a 4-foot by 8-foot section of Gator board, and then you can cut it down to the sizes you want. But I think the full size board's like $150 or something. So yeah, it is a foam filled board, but the paper is like really durable and essentially waterproof, and foam's waterproof too. So you can use it and abuse it for as long as you want. I know eventually with all the staple holes, especially the similarly sized holes, you will eventually wreck one side, then the other, and then have to get a new board. But I've been using it for a few years now. It's still going. So the stuff is good. Yeah, I like the staples. I mean, I just use it's right here because I just used it. So I use one of these cheap staples, and it's the one that you can open up flat, so you can like stop. So I used to have a better, higher quality one. I have a staple gun, but I don't use that. I'll close it up. The staple gun's too powerful for it. It would actually push the staples right through. So just your standard like 10-sheet stapler, perfect. I don't use too heavy a weight of watercolor paper. I use for the smaller pieces. Let me see if I can find one of the pads. It's Stonehenge paper. Here it is. Actually, I have some plate somewhere, but I couldn't find it. If I do another painting, I'll probably do it on plate. So I have this Legion Stonehenge 100% cotton paper. It has a lovely little like coated letter there that you can read when you're in person. And it's a watercolor block. And I bought them so I could just paint them on the watercolor blocks. But there's something about the way watercolor blocks, you seem to be handling it more. And if I take the sheet off, I can attach it to the big board. And then what I'm handling is the big edge of the Gator board. So I'm not touching the actual paper anymore. It sits in there so nicely. And I can do like considerably larger places and still have a greater handling edge. I just prefer that because if I were rotating it, I'm never actually touching the artwork. It just keeps it, less human oil on it. So I'm very happy with this color process. A friend of mine asked me, we're talking about back when everyone was doing fully painted comics. Now everyone's doing fully painted comics. They're doing digitally. There's part of me that would still love to do a fully painted comic book. And I might do one eventually. One of my Viking horror story ideas would be kind of cool to do is, and what I think I would do is I would paint each panel separately on a smaller piece of board or watercolor paper. So if I screw it up, I'm not screwing up the whole page, but having the full knowledge of the layout, and then I would permanently mount the artwork onto some illustration board. So it would still be one big piece of artwork, but all the pieces would be painted separately. So then a little bit like that Delirium piece where I ended up pasting another 16 heads of Delirium drawings on it, but with full comic pages instead. All right, back to the studio. I was lucky enough to get this book. I think this book is long out of print. I don't know if they actually did more than one printing. Should find out by flipping through. So if you're old like me, you also probably remember Roger Dean's book publishing imprint called Dragon's Dream. And one of the things they did a lot of art books. One of the things they did consistently, made them a lot of money initially, were big square books of what they considered the best album covers of the year. So it's very artistic. In the 70s, are really experimental. So there's a lot of amazing album covers. I had a couple of them. And then there's the book of Roger Dean's art. Yeah, here, this is the logo. Really, how 70s is that logo? All right. First edition. So I think there was only ever the one edition. I mean, we're going so far back. I mean, this was printed in Holland. I don't think Holland has a print industry anymore. So it's as much a history of this brief period of time. I think the studio only lasted shortly afterwards. There's a nice little very 70s picture of Wrightson, Jones, Smith, and Kaluta. Kaluta is a hell of a nice. I've met Wrightson a few times, and I met Kaluta a few times. Both lovely people. And photos of the different areas. I think they just rented a massive loft and divided into four, and they each had their own space. And according to some of the interviews, and I think they say it in here. I've been years since I've read this. They all worked such different hours that it wasn't much of an issue. Like I think what I heard is that Windsor Smith would play his guitar while he was thinking about his work, and that wouldn't bother anyone because no one else was there. So this is right here. It's 4 pictures of Jeffrey Catherine Jones. This is before they transitioned. And it's beautiful watercolor and ink work. Something I don't get to do enough of. Just so much. I think it's under. There was a brief period after she passed, where people were like really raving about Jeffrey's work. That seems to have died off again. She was easily. Sorry if I'm screwing that up. She was easily one of the best of the best. Frazetta considered her essentially the heir to his position as best fantasy painter. And I agree. I mean, look at this painting. Look at this. Oh my God. I mean, it's artists like this why I want to do oil. Study oil here again. And she did so much. She illustrated a Game of Thrones book that was just astoundingly beautiful. This is wonderful, like almost like very much an N.C. Wyeth approach to painting, and her black and white work was astounding. I like Arches too, but Stonehenge was available when I started the food. Arches was sold out everywhere, so I tried Stonehenge at the start of the food bank project, and I stuck with it. So Jeffrey and Catherine Jones, they just put out a recent edition of Idle in I'm Age. She did a whole bunch of one-page strips in National Lampoon, Heavy Metal, and I think Epic Illustrated. Oh God, look at this Viking painting. Love this. And just the brush strokes. It's like it's. I don't know if this was on the process something else, but it's so beautiful in and of itself. And the further you get from it, the more it ties itself together. A little bit like Sargent paintings. She was so talented as a draftsman, pen and ink, watercolor, oils, just insanely talented. She did a lot of comics too prior to the whole become a fine artist thing. Some beautiful covers. Big influence. I think John J. Muth and Kent Williams got to spend a fair amount of time with her when she was still alive. I think Andrew would like that. There's a nice little Elric painting. Just beautiful, like gutsy, evocative. all over the place work. It's just, and everything she did. I think this is possibly Blind Narcissus. I think this is her most famous work. It has elements of Waterhouse to it in this, and it's just, oh my God, so good. Like this clear late fall, early winter forest, and then there's like ivy growing on her dress. It's just so good. Oh, move this over so you can see this. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this because I think this is a book people need to see. This is a book they should bring back in print. I don't know if it can. I mean, with two of the creators passed, you'd have to deal with the estates. I don't know if Windsor Smith would want it to be out again. Here's Kaluta. I didn't know anything about Kaluta before seeing this book, and after this, I was in love. His painting, amazing. His drawing had this wonderful, like, more of his paintings here, but I don't want to get to his drawings. His drawings have this wonderful kind of like stylized Art Nouveau, Art Deco approach, like transitioning both Art Nouveau and Deco, especially this, like with border work. Just a level of detail. I think the way the color lays down, I think they're oil washes over pen and ink. This piece. I mean, there's some of his pieces. There's one piece in particular, but some of his pieces, you need them as a poster. Like she's leaving home with this like weird goddess-like creature and birds and on magic carpet and all this treasure, and her arm is like echoing the movement of this arm over here. It's just in the lanterns. It's just so good. And he did so much of this work. He did some sketchbooks that came out, and I missed out on them. I heard about them after. Just so good. A couple of almost Finding Nemo. Well, this is definitely Finding Nemo, but this one, this dream falling past all the doors. Some more of his work. Love this piece. I think I saw a pencil study for this. That was just impeccable. Like just so beautiful. So yeah, in terms of comics, I think he's most known for his stints on The Shadow. These look like watercolor and pen and ink as well. But they could also just be oils, like thinned out diluted oils on the illustration board. Pen and ink work. Wonderful period sensitive pen and ink work here. Just love it. There's a Conan piece. Yeah, this is essentially his Conan piece. I think initially got used as a cover for Epic Illustrated, or maybe Heavy Metal. I could be confusing. See his study work here. I think he painted two versions of it, like that circle there, and he added it here. I think this was for National Lampoon used this. They had the robot with the soldiers. And we're going over to Barry Windsor Smith, who I never met, but I had one very memorable phone call with, which was, he is, there's something about his work. He's like the 70s equivalent to Robert Liefeld, where his fame far outstripped his drawing ability. But given the opportunity, he could draw it all. I mean, there's some weird, the anatomy doesn't work. But essential composition to draw the eye into something is just great. But at this point, his drawing was hit or miss. Like I love his Brand McMorran piece here because most of what he's drawing is the landscape, which is clear what he had the most fun with. Then this is just this lovely shape here. Yeah, I mean, I think he was strongest in his detail work, but here he's doing the neo-romantic stuff here, and it just, I mean, that's not real folds, but those shapes are working beautifully dynamic. I love that scarf, just that face. I believe that's a study from a photograph. study some photographs. I mean, it's like when he has the references, work just astounding. But I think what most worked for him is that he had almost like a Mobius color palette and this impeccable sense of design. And here, so again, it's like when he's doing studies, perfect. When he's drawing out of his imagination, it's kind of a hot mess. There's this famous drawing of, I think it's Conan fighting a bunch of skeletons. I don't even think it's in here, and it's utter nonsense in terms of like what's happening in the drawing, but he just composed it so well. I mean, I love this drawing, don't like this painting, but it's not bad. It's just, I think his work in the 90s, late 80s and 90s, when he returned to comics, showed a tremendous improvement in his approach to drawing and storytelling. And here I think we're finishing up with Mr. Bernie Wrightson. Now I have more than a few Bernie Wrightson books. I got to look back. I got a collection of his trading card art. I got Frankenstein, of course. I should have bought the hardcover that came out a few years ago. I missed on that. Apparently had some of his other Frankenstein pieces. But this is the cover for a look back. Like mementos, like a Wild West serial killer. And again, everyone is doing like color work here. I mean, this looks like dyes or watercolors and ink. Wrightson is probably best known for his pen and ink, even though he was quite an established oil painter. Edgar Allan Poe pieces. And I gotta say, you know what? If you're in a studio with someone like Jeffrey Jones painting Frankenstein stuff, now this is the stuff that just blew my mind. And I think I said this before when I was talking about Franklin Booth. If it wasn't for Wrightson, I wouldn't have found all these. I wouldn't have found Joseph Clement Call. I wouldn't have found Franklin Booth. Just so amazing. And again, it's so much of it's composition driven. This one here, this could be oil washes over ink because they wouldn't interact. You could get these richness of color, and then the blacks would sit through, and they'd absorb some of that layer of oil color. So your blacks would become as rich with this warm purple as everything else. Could be watercolor as well, but I can see brush texture in this in a way I don't think I'd see watercolor. I had this EC Comics cartooning. It was just amazing. And here's some, like, I think this stuff was National Lampoon, all the goofy cartoony stuff. And we're coming up on my favorite piece from this book. A friend of mine had a poster of it, and I wasn't able to find one. Counsel to a Minion. If they reissue this as a poster, I am buying it. I already got some of the Frankenstein work they've been doing as limited edition prints. But if they ever release Counsel to a Minion, because apparently the colors are better in the original than in this reproduction. This is painted back in 76. I mean, just everything, that weird blonde figure here. This implied angel winged figure here, talking like the Counsel to a Minion, talking to his devil's ears. This weird kind of bird sitting in his lap, and then the soldier up here with the Morning Star and the staff. And he's combining it with his funky line work. It's just so good. And detail. Look at this detail. Look at this detail. Oh my God, it's amazing. So this is one of the things I'm sharing it because it's very unlikely. There's a story in this book. Someone bought a print of this. I think it's a print of this because they thought it was a beautiful swamp painting, and then they had someone come in and actually look at it as opposed to just the nice colors and shape. They thought it was like a little piece of swampland. They realized it's a turtle attacking a boat, and the person who bought it just liked the colors and the shapes and didn't even look at it that closely. It sounds apocryphal to me, but I like the story anyway. Some more dinosaurs. Bernie dressed in weird kind of like Edgar Allan Poe era garb. And of course he does a Conan. That's a big bulky Conan, but it brings us to what we're doing tonight. they list the names of all the pieces in the book. Here's the back, and that's it. That's and when this came out in the mid to late 70s, $12.50. This would be, God, this would be at least $75, maybe 150 if it came out today. And it'd be worth it. It'd be worth it then. At least 10 times, and way more than. And I would buy one, of course, because mine's obviously starting to fall apart. Such a beautiful book. Such a beautiful book. So that's the book I'm talking about this week. All right. And, one more thing. Tomorrow, I don't know when it's going to go live, but tomorrow I'm doing a audio podcast talking about, I don't know why it's audio, but I think it's because it's just going to drop like visual pages on screen. I'm going to be talking about my favorite comic page. And it was a hard choice. I chose a page from Bill's run, his first issue on New Mutants. And there's so many of Bill's pages, like looking at his Moon Knight stuff, his New Mutants, Elektra, and everything. I figured it had to be a page that influenced me. And it couldn't be a splash page, because splash pages are practically illustration. And I thought about how when I think the third or fourth time I was rereading this issue, because I was already addicted to Bill's work on Moon Knight, the way he did the trees through this whole sequence, the gutsy way they just read, and a little bit of color work in here and everything, it just works perfectly. And the shapes working all the way through. Just got all that. So you get this shape here, kind of leads you in that panel, but we're immediately going to here, that shape, and everything's pushing back down to here. Get a face, which always draws the eye. That nice little clear drawing of the hand with the arrow. Really, really crudely drawn arrow. I'm a big fan of crude drawing. Everyone since that episode, Conan knows I like my crude shit. And this really, really this gestural hand, little implied bits of snow flying, and the arrow going through the top of the bear's mouth. Wow. So good. So yeah, so I'm going to be doing a podcast tomorrow, mid-morning, talking about this page. So I also printed out really big so I could talk about it. And I think what I did is I no longer have the comic book. I have the glossy paper reprint, where all the colors are just so garish. I hate how they reprinted them. So what I did is I scanned the page, really high resolution, blew it up to 10 by 15, so it's close to the original art size. And then I have scans of different paper surfaces and colors. So I have some newsprint from that era, that kind of off-color white. I put that underneath a multiplied layer of the scan of the page, and then I desaturated the color. So this is as close as I think I can get to looking at that page as it was originally printed. And this came out of my printer, so I did that just because I want to have that nostalgia when I'm talking about it tomorrow. So that's what I did to get it to look this muted, to make the colors look as good as they did in the original newsprint printing. Cool. Let me see if there's anything. Yeah, it really got to reprint that book. Thank you. I love that page. Yeah, there seemed to be, what's really weird now. I was talking with a friend of mine who is a part-time art dealer, and we're talking about how the art market has transformed dramatically in the last 10, 15 years. And it brought to mind, but I didn't want to bring it up at the time, but it's like how the art market is so bizarrely profitable for artists these days, but not for the guys who did all the amazing work in the 80s and 90s. Where you'll see a Frank Miller Dark Knight page go for like $500,000 to $1 million. And even like schlubs like me can actually charge a decent amount for their artwork these days. Excuse me. And it made me think about the movement behind the studio. Those four artists were, apart from Neil Adams Jack Kirby, John Romita Sr. Those four artists were the biggest artists in comics, and they didn't leave to go do their own comics. They went on their own to try and follow the idea that since the language at the time was that comics were art, like Stan Lee was doing like pop art comics, promoting Marvel books, saying they were pop art. And so these four people went off to make a career what they thought an artist's career was like. They did prints, they did portfolios. Barry Windsor Smith founded the Gore Blimey Press, which I think he still sort of runs, even though he's retired. And he did, I think every year he'd do like another portfolio of 6 or 7 pieces, and it would sell them for the astronomical amount of like, I don't know, $10, $20. And they'd print up these things and it'd sell them at convention and sell gangbusters because that was like buying the art. I think there's a more of a market for that type of thing now, but fewer artists are doing it. So anyway. I've heard good things about Durla. I haven't tried it yet. Yeah, watching Bill work is amazing. I have to think that Valentino and McFarlane and Larson of the, maybe Silvestri too. I've never talked to Silvestri about it. It would be a good conversation. I've talked to Mark a few times, but usually just about bullshit. They had to be aware of it, the older guys. But from interviews, McFarlane was, and he would have happily stayed at Marvel had they literally paid him what he thought he was worth. Just from the way it went, the way the interviews went, where McFarlane went in saying, "We're fucking quitting because we need all this money. We're making all this money. You're not giving us any. You're not even giving us watches and shit." And so Todd really had a sense that he made up his mind. But if Marvel turned around and said, "We're going to pay you $5,000 a page," I think that would have been it for Image. Marvel or DC could have killed Image at the time. I really think it was very much a money thing. I'm pretty sure Jim Lee and Mark Silvestri, who was, as I understand it, ready to quit comics at the time anyway, where they offered, everyone at Marvel at the time was like making like $100 to $150 a page, but the royalties or the bonuses on X-Men books that they were working on were like throwing $5,000 to $10,000 into their bank every month. And understanding that was like their 2% or 1.5% of total value of the books, Todd was like, well, hold it. Why aren't we getting a bigger cut since we're driving the sales? So Image was, I think, entirely about the money. And I think the landscape after Image hit and was that successful, I think that pushed Legend. But with the Legend people, I mean, we're talking about Simonson, Mignola, even Byrne. They grew up on Wrightson and Kaluta and Windsor Smith and Jones. I think they would be more inclined to do more art stuff. And I think Mignola has. He's done those really big limited edition Hellboy pieces that are just gorgeous. But I think in many ways that the whole art-driven aspect of comics art is lying fallow. It's kind of like I don't want to do. I really feel the Frankenstein print that I did through Cadence last year. They really fucked up. They did no promotion for it. It's like we sold 5 copies, and I actually have to get the address out again because I have them now, so I got to send them out because Cadence is just imploded. But yeah, it's like if I do prints, I only want to do 1 print a year, and it's going to be limited edition, numbered, signed, all that stuff. And I want them to be beautiful pieces of art that people want to have on their walls. I don't want to necessarily just do some half-ass thing I know will sell because it's got Batman in it. So okay. Oh, I see some more. Yeah, I was curious. Thank you, Charles. All right. I am in talking with some people. Um, I've decided to keep some of the images vague. Some of them are so vague. It's really obvious. Frostgiant's daughter and the big ape. Those are obvious, but I want people to make up their own minds what the other ones are from, if at all. I could have just made them up. I've had some people who've guessed all four that I referred to in there. But yeah, there's some that are vague, and I figure, okay, so you kind of know that Conan's in his mid-30s, so everything that's happened in him telling the story to Riff happened before that point in his life. So that's the only guide I'll give you. But I like a little bit of mystery around it. And actually, it was really weird that page sold almost immediately. Some of the it's weird. I got some Conan pages up, but the pages are selling the ones I haven't put up yet. So I'm going to put up some more Conan pages this Friday. And I'm going to put Princess Leia, I think, some more Conan pages. I'm going to hold off putting up the alternate cover for issue 11 until after issue 11's out. I got my comps. Where did I put them? And oh my God, did the Postal Service destroy my comps? It's they're so beaten up. I have them sitting between books. I have to look in my studio. What pile of books did I have them sitting on to flatten out a bit? The cover printed really, really well, I feel. And I'm not seeing it. My gosh, what did I decide to hide it? Yeah, I got them squished between two really, really heavy books. Here we go. Because here we go. I got it. Even though it's been sitting like this for like 3 days, you can see the creases and the bending, and there's like actual spine damage. The envelope at one point had clearly been rolled this way. So despite, my being very happy with how this printed, holy crap. I mean, it just had the shit kicked out of it. It's beautiful. I mean, Rob's back on art. I love Doug Brathwaite's work. But there's something so nostalgic about Rob's taking all this stuff. What a wonderful Buscema stuff that was right there back in the day. Oh, hey, promo for my book. Falsa Doom! Ooh, did I spoil shit? I may have spoiled shit. But yeah, it's beautiful. So I reached out to Titan. They're going to try and get me some more copies. I was thinking about maybe offering some remarked, because I have so few of them, some remarked these. I'm not going to deal with the damaged ones. These are too, even with the flattening, it's just too much damage to them. So I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but it's sad. I understand there's a friend of mine said that there's actually comic art restorers that can actually they take older beat up comics and they actually can do a decent job of restoring them. I don't know if I'm going to do that for an alt cover. Yeah. Yes, he did. Yeah, I love Jeffrey Ellen Love's cover. It's beautiful. I'm really happy with the illustrations I did. The ones that they shared are already up on the shop. So I think that leaves like 4 or 5 pieces. I think I did 7 total. So I think it leaves like 4 pieces to go up. There's 2 spot illustrations, one of skulls, one of like a goblet and a dagger and a necklace. I did on the same page, so I'll be selling that piece in one piece. But yeah, Dark Horse started off with their Conan relaunch, and then they kind of just let it go away. Thank you, Paul. That's why I kind of want them to be. That's why I show behind the scenes stuff on my Patreon. That's why I talk about what goes into everything when I'm drawing. I want them to be interactive experiences. You have questions, ask. Yeah, and as soon as the book comes out, I'll put the other pieces up because then everyone will see it. I don't want to kind of spoil it. I don't think Titan would care if I put the pieces up now, because I think Love shared his cover like months before the book was announced. Um, yeah. So okay, Conan, starting the young Conan piece. I think this is going to be a 2 week piece. I want to work on it next week because I spent all day yesterday on it, and I was not happy with my composition. I worked on it, and then about 8 o'clock last night, I went, screw this, not working. Watched that Henry Cavill gentleman's fighting World War II things. And then I had a better idea this morning. It's the same idea I had last night, but it's different. So I had this visual idea for a very different spider statue. The spider statue was fucking everything up. So I came up with the idea of a goddess, like a spider-headed goddess. And because I know the way I work, I focused on drawing half of her more accurately while the idea was there. There's a bunch of little sketches. And I played around with the idea of the hands. I was going to have the hands turn around, but I realized it was too complicated. So I just had the hands. So basically what I did is I cheated. I did this much drawing. I scanned it. I cleaned it up in Photoshop, and then I fixed this arm drawing, and I just copied it and rotated it out. And then I basically flipped it and assembled my figure. Similarly, the way I work is I did about 8 or 9. Oh, no, it's really cutting off the figure there. Let me push this up even a bit more. There we go. I did about, I don't know, 6 or 7 different poses. So many of them were like already done. So I wanted something that felt a little different. I mean, young Conan's running around in a loincloth. So I wanted to actually have some of the cloth moving around. So it'd be some motion from the fabric. I don't draw Conan nearly as big as Rob does, but I still wanted to throw some beef on this guy and actually have him show it off. And I also wanted to make it look like he's just finished a fight and he's about to start another one. So I spent a bunch of time till I got happy with the pose. And I don't care about the size that's going to be in the final work. I draw everything at the size it feels comfortable for me to draw it at the time. I find I get better drawings that way because then I can scan it. And I partially assembled based on the ideas. There's still stuff I got to work out. So you can see it's very simple. I kind of broke down, and I might change stuff before I start inking it. But I got stuff I want to work on here. So I quickly drew out spider. You see the finished statue. I might redraw this pedestal, but I wanted a pedestal, so I quickly sketched out some spiders on the edge. Basically an old column pedestal, and there's going to be a bunch of jewels and stuff. I could even do a fire in there. But if there's jewels, and that's the idea why he's stealing it. What I'm going to be drawing tonight is because I'm happy with the figure. I like the idea of this pedestal being elevated. There's going to be a lot of shadows and floor textures and stuff I'm going to introduce to make that space interesting. But there's going to be at least 1, maybe 2 bodies of people that Conan just killed in there. And I can design them to fit into this. I was thinking about those spaces as I go in. I really bungled drawing the bottom of the pillar, but I didn't care because I knew I was going to have a figure blocking as part of that. A step, because for Zeta, I always like putting a step in there. It makes a nice break in terms of value. And I'm going to do at least 1 or 2 bodies. 1 or 2 bodies here at the bottom. Probably 1, but more bigger. I might even do one that's like he's clearly just finished and the guy's like falling over or something, right? Because if you just swipe them with that sort of did a backstroke with it, this guy would just be falling. But I want a monster, some sort of temple guardian coming around this wall I established over here. And I'm thinking also there'd be like, I'm going to knock over a brazier so I can actually have like smoke and fire coming through here and obfuscating things, having some light coming from an angle, having this creature backlit. I'm thinking about if you played D&D at any point or read some of the Forgotten Realms books, there's these creatures called driders, which are like centaurs, but they have giant spider bodies. and it's a bit of a swipe content wise. But I kind of want to draw one. All the D&D artwork I did, I never got to draw a Drider. That's what they're called. So I think I'm gonna, give them a nice freaky spider head, probably an uglier version of this head. Arm reaching out to the wall to imply he's coming around the wall. Not sure how much it's spider. See, this becomes a nice dark shape with lines coming back into the composition. And part of the reason I put the big spider platform back here, I'm going to do some sort of textural thing here, like stone and stuff. But I also want kind of like those curved things coming down through here. That's why the hands are swooping like that. So everything's swooping around. Conan's got this kind of curve happening here, and there's like the pillar leading up. So it kind of brings it all together into one fold. And I'm not worried about, this being used as a cover, so I can actually use up the full image. So it becomes a dedicated. I might send it to Titan and say, "Hey, you guys want this as a cover?" I guess I could actually move this guy down a little bit because he's supposed to be smaller. But I kind of like Conan fighting a giant Drider. It just feels like a nice classic Conan image. So and it's like thinking about it was too vertical. Like I had Conan closer to the pedestal, actually robbing it, which made him feel more passive. And had the bodies in the foreground, but they became disconnected from Conan in the midground robbing. Then the monster coming in. Originally, I was going to do more of a, because it was more vertical. I didn't have the arms and stuff. It was more of a spider statue. So I had the priest coming around with the extra arms and the spider face. So now this is the goddess of the temple, because spider haunted towers of Zamora. Yeah, so this is what I'm going for. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to fiddle around with this drawing. I might toss it and slip this underneath another piece of bond paper, because I can see everything through it. I can do multiple versions of this, and you can see me do the work process. Ask questions as I go through it. Give me suggestions if you got better ideas. I'm all for hearing it. And probably drawing the figures here, and you're going to see why I work with translucent. Because what I can do here is, even though I have Conan figured out, I know he fits the space really nicely. I can draw the figures on top of Conan. I don't know if you noticed, sometimes when artists, they're drawing like figures that are overlapping, the anatomy goes wrong as it goes onto the other side of a limb that's being overlapped. Okay, so that's a good question, Jim. Okay. Questions in order. Here we go. Archie Nid. Oh man, I'm gonna have to do some Archie related just to keep Anson happy. Yes, I was drawing this, and there was a part of me that after I finally got happy with this composition, the thought hit me of doing it as a painting. That would be a really big piece. It'd be a heck of an undertaking with all the other work I got to do a painting that I don't know is going to be used as a cover. So that would be like if I have a work slowdown, and that's not happening until maybe Christmas this year. Yeah, so I'd like the idea of doing an actual painted Conan cover, because I think I do pretty good Conan covers, paintings. But it's going to have to rate. I got asked by a company if I'd be interested in doing specific character covers. And I think they're very much in my wheelhouse. And those I might paint, even though their rates are kind of terrible, because I know the art market for these pieces would be pretty astounding. So that might be something I end up working on stream here. I'd love to do more painting. As it is, smaller paintings to not overwhelm my day-to-day work. Jim. Okay, so the trick for this is lighting and detail. Lighting and detail is very much how you control where the eyes go. This is a very busy figure, but it's going to be the mid-ground. Conan's going to be well lit. So there's going to be a light coming from, say, up here where my fingers are. So there's going to be a light coming down at Conan. So he's going to be getting hit by light. Very likely she's going to be hit light, but the shadows are going to be more intense. So there's going to be like a mid value, and I'm going to be doing all this texture in the background, even though I haven't drawn any of it. I'm thinking of try to make it feel like a mosaic tile. So I might go through a whole bunch of vertical or horizontal lines, and then do darker tiles, the spider, so it feels, so everything will be pushed. The only highlights would be the gems in her eyes, and I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to do gems for her nipples, but also that kind of like Esteban Maroto. God, if there's an artist who needs an art book, it's Esteban Maroto. But the Esteban Maroto bullshit jewelry I do on her body, there might be some reflections off of that. Just very subtle. So it's going to be like high contrast, brightly lit. The figures here falling just outside of everything, but the shapes leading back into here. Enough visual information so this recognizes to the reader. And this is going to be backlit. The monster, no matter what my design ends up being, it's going to be backlit. And there's going to be smoke from the firing of the Nocturne of Brazier, which I haven't drawn yet. So it's going to be dark shape with a little bit of light coming through here because it's backlit, coming down to the smoky type mid-ground here. Conan brightly lit against this darker mosaic shape, this dark shape coming around the corner. So these are going to shadow merge. So I'm going to lose this edge as it comes into the body of the spider creature. So it's going to become like the same value. So Conan's going to pop loose. If I have the smoke come up, I can actually have the smoke kind of obfuscate that, have some of the light that's hitting Conan hit the smoke back here. So then his dark hair pops up against the lighter smoke, which will actually make him come even further forward, which I'll probably talk about that when I'm making it too. And then however I plan the figures are going to curve and overlap in a way that are going to reinforce the fact that we're coming back here. I hope that was clear. Yeah, so the background, getting these guys to stay in the background will be largely dependent on my handling of Conan in the foreground. Oh God. Okay, so I kept a few of the pieces. My development sketches for this Conan started about 2-3 inches, so I did a page of them. It's already crumpled up in my recycle bin, so I'm not going to go dig it out. I just say the closest thing to an actual drawing that looks like a drawing. And then I draw it again and again. Initially, I had both arms. I had both hands holding the sword over here. But I made the sword. I didn't like it. It just felt like he was too posed, like having both hands in the sword over there. And then I was worried about complicating of having the curve coming down. Then I like the idea of Conan using 2 weapons. I might have to think about doing scabbards. That might be, he would probably be wearing a scabbard for both the sword and the dagger. But then that becomes really busy here around his midsection. I really want to establish that. This is how little Conan wore in Tower of the Elephant. He just wore, he literally, when he left the Tower of the Elephant, what he entered the Tower of the Elephant with is his loincloth, his sandals, and his sword. And it was a fun reread as I was prepping for this weekend. So I do a lot of planning drawing, and sometimes I let it get in the way, and it slows me down. Had yesterday been, if I came up with this yesterday, I would have stayed up later, finished all the figures of the monster, and I'd be inking right now. So that's it'd be a Gil Kane figure if I drew really tiny shoulders. I don't know what it is. Gil Kane could draw everything so well, but he always did this weird thing with shoulders where he didn't give them the type of mass a heroic figure usually requires. I love Gil Kane's work. He did that really, really, really cool Superman project that Kevin Nolan made. That was really amazing too. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to work on these in the fallen ground figures here, and based on how these figures work, will determine like whether or not I feel I need to put like a pattern or a tile pattern in the floor. Really easy, simply. It's just geometric perspective. With everything else in the piece, it's really easy for me to establish where the vanishing points are. I could even theoretically, when I'm happy with everything else, do an assembly printout like I did here. So do an assembly printout with everything here, print it down like really small, so I can actually get the vanishing points like really tight in within the range of the image. Draw the geometric pattern on the floor and an overlay, scan that, pop it in to the piece till it fits, and then ink it. All right, so let me. Okay, what do you guys? You want me to start with the monster? Or you want me to start with the figures in the ground? My God, it's already 8. I've been talking for an hour already. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Kane's John Carter stuff is honestly probably makes me. His Ring of the Nibelunga was good, but I think his John Carter stuff was of that era of Gil Kane was his best work. Well, Conan's kind of already sorted out, so I'm talking about drawing the figures that aren't really done it all yet. Yeah, Gil Kane was. What's weird is I saw some chatter where, oh God, I'm blanking on his name. He's this amazing artist, one of the few black artists in comics history, and he had what was at the time probably one of the best page rates. Moved up for inflation, his page rate would be something like $450, $500 a page right now. God, why am I blanking? It seems like whenever I'm like live chatting, it's like my brain just rots because I'm so focused on so many things. Yeah, so by the time Gil Kane and a lot of the artists of his era were getting consistent work, rates had crashed. The Comics Code Authority largely gutted the profitability of comics. So Gil Kane knew there was a market for the art, and the companies weren't doing shit with it, and he stole a ton. A lot of people don't know that. I think Pollard. I don't know of Pollard. I don't know much about Pollard actually. He wasn't one of those artists I really got into. I mean, I was aware of his work. I recognized his skill, but he was not. I mean, he did when he did some villains in Moon Knight. I was like, what the fuck, man? After seeing Bill Sienkiewicz and Kevin Nolan, it's like Pollard seemed like a real step down. Trying to have that back come up with more of an angle. I thought Keith was more of a like I think Kane was stealing shit in the 50s and 60s to make ends meet, and Pollard feels like a 70s guy to me, 70s, early 80s, like for the entirety of his career. I could very well be wrong. Again, I'm not the biggest historian for comics. I'm still mentally kicking myself for not remembering the name of the artist I was talking about just a second here with the good rate. I can see his face too because there's a collection of his work I have somewhere where they have his portrait on the cover of the book. Oh God, I think it stopped when he got caught. Someone figured out they knew he was doing it, and then they just stopped giving him access to the work. I think that was in the 70s. Howard would be the one to ask, but I don't talk to Howard anymore. So what type of weapon do you think a Spider Temple Guardian would wield? I think Boris is. It's really, really. Boris is a master, no doubt about it, and his partner Julie Bell is also a master. And I think they raised two of the best fantasy artists working today. Boris had the unfortunate position to have come up in the shadow of Frazetta at the peak of his powers. And no matter how beautifully Boris rendered his work, there was still a sense that Frank's work had more life and energy to it. I like that hand. And I think it's unfortunate. Had there been more space between Boris and Frank at that time, there's a lot of artists. I think Tom Kidd suffered from being a fantasy artist in too close proximity to Frank in terms of competitiveness. A little bit better. Shit, you know what? Maybe I should make his body less bodybuilder, more tightness, and play around with this a bit more. Yeah, that feels a little more creepy. Still allows him to be big. Let me change this shoulder. Yeah, you could see the photo reference in his work, and he really leaned heavily on the photo reference work, which is part of his. I mean, Frazetta used a lot of photo reference, but lied about it. And he could get away with it because he. It's a little bit like there's what made Frazetta better in terms of the energy of his figures. There's more of a gestural approach. So even when Frank was using photo reference, he wasn't a slave to the photo reference because he was never working to the level of realism that Boris was. Boris's work was so determined to be photorealistic, and despite his weird kind of psychedelic fog backgrounds, he needed that level of realism, which meant he had to lean on his photo reference so much stronger than Frank did. Yeah. And honestly, I use photo reference too for like a lot of my witches are based on photos of friend models, and some of them are based on drawings I did of life models. But I don't let the photo reference or the original drawing hold me to anything, because the important thing is to have the figure feel natural and alive, not stiff. And that is one of the more unfortunate things about Boris's work is he was only ever to be as alive as his photo reference, whereas I think his kids, Dorian and I'm blanking on the other kid's name, which is terrible. They're less beholden to the photo reference. I think it could very well be that Boris learned to draw and paint a certain way because he comes from advertising. So I think that was process, and process is key for a lot of artists. But growing up with two artists as parents, and apparently getting training from a young age from like two of the best in the industry, they're just better trained, more freeform. It's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I think I know the Brahm piece. Is that the one with Belit? I think. Um, there's a few artists out there who get an incredible amount of energy into their paintings, but again, the market's diluted so much since then that it's hard to keep track of them. I love Justin Sweet's work. Um, I think he's done some amazing fantasy work. Mostly does film work now. I'm just kind of trying to give it more of an angular type body to this creature. So the legs of the spider would be starting on the underside. So I'm going to imply some like that kind of ribbed, even though I may not end up drawing in any detail of this, I want to have those ridges there in case I do draw. So I'm going to do a leg coming out here. Maybe a little thicker. It's already going off the page in a way. I don't like the joint being right there. So there we go, that works better. There we go. I can have another leg come back up here. I don't want to do anything too much detail going into this part of the Conan figure. So I know I'll be doing that one. There. I'll do that. Get rid of that bump there. More of a shape. This one would come up and would be peeking here. And that would go back there. And these legs would be pointing. Oh, hang on. As I talk to myself as I always do. Let's get more of a gap in there. Okay, you know what? This leg would be here. This is what I do. I think and I talk to myself when I'm drawing. But I'm more of a mumbling thing. It's like I talk so little to people during the week these days. Even when I go to the gym, I don't talk to anyone. Yeah, I gotta say it's he used bodybuilders as models. In fact, that's how he met Julie Bell. She used to be a bodybuilder, um, and yeah, amazing stuff. I'm trying to remember, is Julie Bell the one who married the muscles from Brussels? There's my brain going. I'm thinking about Spider. I'm thinking about the black comic artist whose name I'm blanking on. All these things I'm forgetting about now. I'm starting to just confuse all my memories together. So this would be coming out back there. So that would actually be back there somewhere. Yeah, Van Damme. Belated birthday felicitations. For me, Anson. My birthday's in January, man. Still not sure what type of weapon. I might give him a sickle. Sickles always look fucking crazy. I can give him a Kopesh. Just just feels like more of an evil sword that you would put in a spider guardian's hand. Yeah, I think a coat that should be cool. Oh, so Facebook said it was my birthday? Jeez. Nope. I'm 56. I'm no rush to turn 57. I can wait. I can wait till January next year for that. So I'm pushing that up there. What I can do with this is I can do some beautiful spider hairs that are always showing up in spiders. I can do reflected light into the shadow along here at the front of the torso, and mimic some human anatomy with the chitin. And since it'll be shiny, it'll be slightly more easier to do like rim lights and reflected lights. So I can get across without drawing too much detail on the spider creature, even though I'll be probably using a million lines. I can actually get across the idea of what this creature is kind of like alien monstrous looking. Okay, Tom, are you referring to Tower of the Elephant as arguably Conan's Howard's best Conan story? I would tend to agree. I think Tower is his best written story. Beyond the Black River is probably my favorite because of the dog and the young man he takes as a sidekick, and the way he wove him into the story and how it ended. Plus, my first Howard books were the Berkeley editions with the Ken Kelly covers, and I still think that those Berkeley Howard collections were Kelly's best work of his career. Everything got strangely shiny and plasticky after that. And I think he was more directly connected with Frank when he was doing those covers. They had much more of that Frank essence of painterliness. And I think Beyond the Black River was the very first one I got and read. Then it was People of the Black Circle, Hour of the Dragon. And then I read Lost Valley of Iskander and all the other, everything else I could get my hands on. It sounds like there's fireworks going on. Yeah, that's fireworks. Is today some sort of holiday or something? All right. Well, that went a little bit faster than I thought. So I think I got the basics. Again, apart from cleanup, like cleaning up the Kopesh and everything. I think my Spider Guardian, and I want that eye. That's just fiddling with stuff. And so I want that to get in there, so the eyes going to put it in there. There's my Spider Guardian. It's going to be a nice black shape in here, going through the wall, or whatever value I go with. Yeah, if I have the brazier kind of like knocked off. If I have the smoke, I could even just have smoke for no reason coming through here. Just become a graphical element because I already got the horizontal plane here. Slightly suggested the horizontal there. Have this ship kit here. I could just have like smoke coming down through here, and have obviously fire on the ground here, making that hand pop more. I don't even necessarily have to draw the brazier; you just have to have fire. Yep. Okay. Do the fire there. That I don't want a body there. I want the fire. They'll nicely silhouette Conan. So I need a body here. So I'm going to do someone who's already killed. Just on the camera. Okay, it's on camera. So people on Facebook are saying it's my birthday. I haven't seen any of that. No, I've been drawing all day, so. Facebook notifications. Huh. Not seeing anything. All right, I should just miss that. I don't see anything on the wall. All right. When I put my pencil down the wrong spot, and here I am. So I want to figure that's probably if Conan's like around 6'2", 6'6'2". Any other figure he's going to fight is going to be 5'8", 5'10". So I want to figure that is big enough to be on scale. I didn't do any sketches for what the temple guards would wear, so I guess I can just do generic stuff. Let me move the camera down a bit. See what I'm doing down here. Oh, okay, sorry. I didn't put two and two together there. I'm a little oblivious to that. I'm still trying. Is it Matt Wayne? No, it's not Matt Wayne. Damn it. It's gonna bother me. As soon as the stream's over, I'm gonna go Googling and get that name right. And I'll probably remember it just as I start Googling it. I'm just gonna go this way and then come down. So I get to draw the figure right through Conan here. And then I can adjust as if I decide I don't let this feel here. And this is really the benefit for me, the way I work here. I get to draw everything exactly the way I want it and then merge it in after. I probably go through a lot more paper than just drawing it the way I used to on artboard. But this allows me to make sure that this figure makes sense, even though he's behind Conan. So I'm not going to draw that leg at all because anything that might emerge outside the figure would be like a toe, and that just becomes a distraction. So I need to do that. Ribcage, hips, pelvis, hips, ribcage coming up there. Sending, so his head's going to actually be more over here. The shoulders moving up over there. Now, I don't want his other arm to interact anyway with this part of the arm. So I could literally just have it, suggest his hand here, and when he's dealt with, although actually there'd be more behind his hip. Or I can bring it up here. Now it seems like he's on the fainting couch. The palm is sort of here. And that way. Well, I can actually have his hand up here. And you can see I'm literally just almost doing like a mannequin construction. Because what I can do is, if I'm happy with this, stick it on another piece of paper and redraw the figure with more detail, more construction. And the big one of those classic Frazetta like belts. And give them pants, I don't have to worry about leg anatomy. I just get to use shapes, which is probably smarter. His knee would be there. So, yeah, and his foot would be there, but I don't want to draw the foot, so I'm just not going to draw it. As soon as this gets lost, you can obliterate details if they're going to distract, because likely no one's going to see them. Some bright bulb might come along and say, shouldn't his leg be over there? Yes, it should, but I decided not to draw it. And because you're not seeing it, you don't. Maybe Conan hacked that leg off. Right? So you get to do all those decisions. Now, I don't want his face to be a major issue. So I can either give him a helmet or have his face turning away. And since he's going to be in shadow, just hiding any sort of details will make him less important to the overall composition. And then I can decide what type of details. Boots with some stitching, just for verisimilitude. And Conan stuff's going to be coming over this. So I'm going to simplify this. Normally I'll do beads and stuff and pouches on belts when I'm drawing more complicated figures. What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to put a helmet falling off its head here, which actually pushes this right off the edge. It becomes more of a dark shape that merges in with the dark shape of his hair. Give him a big beard, some hair, and suddenly that just becomes the figure that's falling off the page. Yeah, I think that works. I think that figure works. It blocks the bottom of the pillar the way I wanted to. I could even draw a vase. Create some nice spider vase. Spider vase does whatever a spider vase does. Holds the flower just like that. Something lyrics. Don't got more. Look out, there goes the spider vase. Some sort of pattern. Peacock feathers, I can get rid of that. I just felt like a nice empty spot. I can throw that behind the hands, and I get the dark feathers behind the hands. Let them pop a little bit, release from the background there as it gets. So lighting will drop down, so everything is going to get darker back here. So now I have a darker shape behind the lighter hands. That makes sense. Just me overthinking things. All right, so I got one dead temple guard. Shield. Temple guards have shields. It seems more like a war thing. You're probably better off with pikes and scimitars. Shit like that. Yeah, no shield. I was just saying maybe that shape would work there. So if a guy is getting gutted, I want him to be physically about the same size as Conan, but just to imply that he's closer to the foreground. And if I'm drawing that belt, I can use weapon. I can actually, like, if it's a scimitar, I can have it curved down there. So it moves through everything. I can give him the same helmet type that I'm doing here with this guy. But do so in a way that implies that he's looking down. He covers up some of the Conan figure. Like that leg. I spent so much time fucking drawing that leg, I don't want to cover it. But by having the layering, it actually maintains the focus on Conan. Just gotta have enough to suggest that he's sitting on his legs. Gesture's a little stiff. I can do better than that. Oh, by the way, another movie I caught this week was the vampire crime caper flick Annabelle. I think it's called Annabelle. Abigail. Damn it. It is. No, I think Annabelle's the doll. Abigail's the. They advertised it too much. They gave away too much. The movie would have worked perfectly fine if they didn't reveal that the girl was a vampire in all the commercials and trailers. Maybe I want his head turning this way. So it was good. It was worth it. It's pretty smart. There was a little bit. They overbusied the climactic fight a bit for me. Once they established the rules and what was going on, they did too many cute things, afraid the audience wasn't going to get it. So 3 days ago, someone said it was my birthday. Oh, well, they still got it wrong. Yeah, so if you get a chance, check out Abigail. I still haven't seen Civil War. I've been meaning to see that for a while. I want to see Fall Guy because I heard amazing things about it, but no one's seeing it. I also got to catch Ghostbusters because it came on streaming, and it was all right. I mean, they're still not capturing the magic of the first one. And I wasn't the biggest fan. I'm not a big fan of horror comedy. It was just a fun comedy. I'm going to pull it up. I can do some skin textures here. Have that come over there. Reveal more of that arm. Yeah, I'll have bare arms in there so I can actually peek into there. So if the swords drop there, actually, there's all you do there, wouldn't it? There we go. Yeah. You guys see? No, you guys aren't seeing any of the stuff at the bottom. There we go. Missing right leg and foot. Yeah, yeah. So right here at the bottom. So this is the hip. You got the back muscles coming up there. Got the chop coming up that. Right. Well, that's coming there. Rib cage coming up. Top of the pelvis. Femur. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I just wanted to double check the proportions there. Bring that arm up more. Show more of it. This will definitely be, these two figures, I'll probably do another pass on another level of bond paper, just to make sure that all the messy anatomy there gets cleaned up before I try and ink it. Now, if he's holding that hand and he dropped it, sword would either be facing like that, which doesn't lead anywhere. It's not really good. So either have it like that in front of him. He's dead, so drop. No, so that action line works better. But if I put another figure there, I don't think I need it. So I have another figure. You see this? Yeah, okay. Got another figure here. Now it's too sitting too much at the bottom. And actually have his arm coming up from behind. And have the whole soup like that. No, I want that coming back this way. There we go. That works better. So I have a mid-ground figure here. Belt runs midsection on there. Just dead. And this is another figure I can do with the helmet kind of falling off. So I got 3 dead temple guards. I got Conan, I got the statue, and I got the guardian. I think that's what I need for next week. So I'll be able to assemble. I may not do the vase. I might do something else there. I may not need anything in this shape at all. But what we got here is we got Conan covering up this part of that figure, this figure covering up that part of Conan's leg, and this figure covering up the back end of Conan's leg completely, which is okay. It grounds him to the ground. I can do things like, instead of like I can do like abused stone textures, like with cracks and stuff, and then have some blood splattered on the floor. And that becomes a visual inches of the floor. I have like something on the floor is on fire, and that comes up here and starts fading off. So allows the background and the spider statue to emerge, and allows this to be a mostly silhouetted shape. I can even do implied smoke back up here. Yeah, so that's I think that's the design for our Conan piece. Yeah, Dune 2 was so good. I'm sorry, here we go. Yeah. Thanks. I don't mind losing it. The action of this figure following through from this leg in the foreground. See, the wonderful thing is I can put this on top of these drawings. You can still not as good as there's that line there. That line there. Yeah, I spent a lot of time on that freaking line, but I like that figure. It feels more immediate, like Conan has just killed someone. If they're all flopped on the ground, completely dead, then why is Conan standing like that? So I feel the immediacy of this guy falling over, and I still might have to make him bigger. Looking at him now with more emphasis on Conan above, I feel that figure needs to be bigger. Let's back up here. Yeah, he seems like Conan's a giant amongst men, but he seems almost too small. Like he killed a short king. I think I have to make this guy maybe just 10% bigger, just filling up a bit more there. Covers that leg, yeah. I mean, I could move Conan over and up a bit. Have his hair covering these hands. I mean, I draw these hands. That's part of the reason why I don't want to cover them. But it wouldn't affect the overall composition by moving them up a bit more. I'd see some more of his leg, probably see his foot planted. But then it would create a visual contrast with that leg in the background. And I really want to keep that step to keep a sense that there's like depth in the piece. So what I'm going to do is clean this up, make any changes based on this as I see fit, scan the additional drawing level here, assemble it in Photoshop, make any other changes I see once it's fully assembled. I might even like print it out and then trace it off again and redraw certain things, because this tricep seems a little thick to me. And then for next Sunday, I'll be inking this piece. And this piece should be pretty easy to ink. What I might do is I might actually start the mosaic in the background initially and the smoke, so I don't waste too much time figuring shit out. But yeah, that's I'm thinking this is how I pencil pretty much everything. So I think this is about what I would call 85% done. The other 15% being cleanup and assembling and print out onto the Eon artboard. Yeah, so I think, well, we're almost at 8:45. So yeah, I did a lot of talking about the studio. That was I really wanted to talk about that book for a while. This week I'm going to do a short video comparing my two favorite brush pens or Fude pens. I think I talked about it. It's like I talked about these uni brush pens for a while, and then I got these Faber-Castell Pit hard brush pens, and I don't think one's better than the other, but I think they complement each other perfectly in terms of how I work. So I'm going to do a little short midweek video about that, and I'll be using them when I ink this piece next week. So, all right. So all of you guys, thank you for coming out. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm well over 600 subscribers. When I get over 1,000 subscribers, which is still a long ways off, and get over 4,000 hours of viewing, then I can monetize. So I think that means I'd be making a few pennies every week. And pennies aren't terrible in this economy. Feel free to follow me on Instagram at Richard_Pace there. I have a $1 a month Patreon, which is Richard Pace. You get to see all stuff like, how I assemble stuff. You get to see covers months before they go anywhere else. You get advance notice of when I'm putting stuff on my art shop. All that stuff. You get early access. You get to see stuff that no one else gets to see. I think I'm also on Bluesky, but almost no one's doing anything on Bluesky. So So yeah, next week I'm going to do part 2, and I'll be doing. I'm going to try and ink as much as possible. Probably do another hour and a half. Ink as much as possible that I can into one session. Definitely do as much of the Conan figure as possible. And yeah, so again, have a great week. I hope to see all of you next Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Night.